those of you who may not know, one of the other semi-regular series on this channel is a deep dive video essay series called Really That Good, which explores why certain popular movies, whose popularity is kind of taken as a given, either by sheer pop culture mass agreement or by virtue of their stature as cult classics or nostalgia items, actually connected like they did. The most recent subject to come into consideration was 1986's Transformers the movie. If you've already watched the episode, you know that I devoted a great deal of time to the film's most frequently cited moment in the pop culture canon, i.e. the bizarrely shocking surprise death of the series' main character Optimus Prime in the first act. Also rating a mention, however, though certainly not as lengthy of one, was the film's arguably second best-known element of movie trivia infamy. Transformers the movie was technically the final film performance by Orson Welles, who performed the voice of planet-devouring villain UNICRON, basically What If the Death Star was also a Transformer, a mere 5 days before he died.
Welcome, Megatron. Who said that? I am Unicron.
Among Transformers fans, this is generally thought of in a pretty positive light. Unicron is one of the most iconic and popular characters in the entire franchise, and the connection of an actual living legend voicing the role, even if his faculties were so impaired by that point that his vocals had to be heavily augmented in post-production, only adds to that mystique. But unsurprisingly, the broader popular culture has always framed it in much more of a negative light, beginning with the somewhat obvious fat joke, i.e. haha gargantuan late-period Orson Welles as the voice of an entire planet, but often expanded upon as something more specifically grim, almost a tragic ending to a life that had come to be defined by its dizzying falls. It's pretty easy to understand the angle where that's coming from. With Citizen Kane, Welles had not only begun his movie-making career by making what many call the greatest film of all time, he'd begun it with a great film that was, among other things, all about delivering a savage condemnation of corporate media in the form of a very thinly veiled caricature of then all-powerful newspaper mogul William Randolph Hearst. Kane had remained the project and indeed the role that had dominated Welles' entire career and public persona after that point, so it's very easy in context to see things ending with Transformers the movie as something like the punchline to a sick joke. The filmmaker, who opened with a warning about media as corporate propaganda, signs off with an appearance in what could well be corporate media in its purest form, literally a feature-length children's toy commercial. And Welles was, despite his ill health at the time, entirely cognizant of what he'd signed up for, reportedly telling his biographer, "You know what I did this morning? I played the voice of a toy. Some terrible robot toys from Japan that changed from one thing to another. The Japanese have funded a full-length animated cartoon about the doings of these toys, which is all bad outer space stuff. I play a planet. I menace somebody called something or other, then I'm destroyed. My plan to destroy whoever it is thwarted, and I tear myself apart on the screen." So, safe to say, Orson Welles did not think of playing Unicron in Transformers the movie as one of his proudest moments, and really neither did anyone involved at the time. It was a paycheck job for pretty much everyone involved, and even the filmmakers have been very candid about the fact that even the surprise character deaths weren't something they intended to have any kind of lasting dramatic impact, because as far as they were concerned, their job was simply to clear out the discontinued characters to sell new action figures. No one was planning on this becoming a generation-defining cult classic. It just kind of happened. That said, it's interesting that the now infamous quote to the biographer indicates that Welles was putting some effort into getting his head around exactly what it was he'd signed up to play, given that he didn't actually have that many lines and was famously dismissive of his voiceover work in the same era. And the idea that he might have seen the role as some kind of particular humiliation, I mean, to me, that feels like projection more than anything else. He certainly thought Transformers was absurd, probably because Transformers is absurd.
For a time, I considered sparing your wretched little planet, Cybertron. But now, you shall witness its dismemberment.
But even removed from my recent function as deliberate long-form Transformer apologist, I honestly have to question whether Welles, had he lived to see the film become perhaps his best-remembered non-cameo role post-1970, would have honestly agreed that doing a silly children's film about action figures was some kind of artistic low watermark. Film historian and longtime Welles confident Peter Bogdanovich certainly didn't feel that was the case, and while as a thought experiment there's definitely something oddly apocalyptic about imagining a by then 80-something Orson Welles perhaps turning up for an autograph payday at BotCon at some point in the 90s, I can't help but also think that if I were there to suggest to Orson Welles that there was something particularly revelatory or troubling about a generation of young adults whose lives are so profoundly defined by a bunch of toys they used to play with, well, he might have the perfect one-word retort for me. That's what the "oh, isn't it tragic, the great film artist ending in a Transformers movie" take tends to miss in its assumptions. Orson Welles may have been a tremendously prideful and self-aggrandizing breed of genius, but he was also forever playful, an impulsive mischief maker who famously called his RKO Pictures movie contract the biggest electric train set any boy ever had, and was endlessly fixated on the idea of the great man and the eternal child as one and the same, both in his career and as a public persona. Charles Foster Kane, the man who could have everything he ever wanted, dies thinking about a toy he had as a kid. He considered his best film to be Chimes at Midnight, which combines the plots of 6 Shakespeare plays to demonstrate his thesis of recurring character Sir John Falstaff, a walking embodiment of bluster and immaturity, as the bard's greatest creation. And of course, he was one of several great filmmakers to obsessively drive himself nearly into ruin trying to mount the definitive adaptation of Don Quixote, the ultimate go-to icon of childhood winning out over adulthood prior to Disney's recontextualizing of Peter Pan. This is all academic, of course. We can't ever possibly know what Orson Welles might have thought about this being one of his roles that we're still talking about. We can only speculate, and even if we did have some definitive final word on the matter straight from his own lips, there's a kinda well-known movie that'll tell you that still might not give us any real answers. For me, at least, there's something not entirely without note in the idea that the man who, in more than one way, ultimately was Citizen Kane's last living contribution to cinema was to be part of creating something that became for a whole generation something like their Rosebud.
Who said that?
Charles Foster Kane!
Hey gang, here's a question that keeps coming up. If your handle is moviebob, where are your movie reviews? Well, my old reviews are in a lot of places. You'll find many of them on my YouTube channel, but you'll find the brand new ones on geek.com, an awesome site that's also your one-stop news source for science, TV, gaming, technology, nerd culture, the works. You can find all my reviews directly by going to geek.com/author/bchipman, because that's my real name, and you can get regular updates on all my reviews and all of geek.com's other great content by signing up for their kick-ass newsletter at subscribe.geek.com. And don't forget to also subscribe to the Geek.com YouTube channel, where you'll find the videos that accompany my reviews and tons of other great content too. Remember, that's Geek.com, the Geek.com newsletter, and Geek.com on YouTube. Make sure you don't miss out on all the latest MovieBob reviews. You can also check out my own new website, MovieBob Central, where you'll find my blog, links to all my work, and shop for my books, ebooks, and future MovieBob products. And please remember to like these videos, share them with all of your friends, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching another MovieBob production.